Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, we are going to talk about those big things that are going on in the hobby. There's always something big, there's always something drastic, emotional, always something going on. And I'm going to talk about it from a different angle. So you've seen all the dot codes, you've seen and heard all the rabble. I'm going to talk about professionals in general. I'm going to talk about things like risk. I'm going to talk about some concepts and ways that I understand things, ways that I try to apply things to my situation, my business, my hobby. And hopefully there will be something interesting here for you. We are going back to the old school presentation format. I did fire up a PowerPoint for the occasion. Consult professionals. I say it all the time. Dan, what are new Pokemon collectors, businesses, whatever, however they engage, what are some of the most common mistakes people make off the bat? They don't consult professionals. I added it in there though. Sometimes I give the disclaimer, sometimes I don't. You can't just consult a professional. Professionals widely vary in their expertise. They widely vary in their ability to do certain tasks. Competent ones. Well, Dan, how do you find a competent professional? What exactly do you mean by competent professional? So in Pokemon, I'm a business. You may be a collector. You might just be watching this for fun. Maybe you don't touch Pokemon whatsoever. But me personally, accountants, corporate tax attorneys, the kinds of people that I interact with on a regular basis, the kinds of people that I interact with, to consult with, to verify I'm meeting all government regulations, filing all appropriate paperwork with every entity that I need to file them with. And how do you go about doing that? Hey, Dan, I'm looking to start a Pokemon business. Where do I start? I started on Google. I started on accountants near me. I talk to friends and family local to me. I always talk about how taxes, all this stuff is very regional. I'm in Oneida County, New York. A lot of things are very local government based, state, federal, very big implications on who and how and what you can do, can't do. So someone local to you. Find an expert local to you. If you are in, like, I've had people who live in California say, hey, Dan, can I just use your people? They might do work for people around the country, but like to a large extent, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do it because there's probably someone local to you doing it and they will be more up to date with whatever county you're in, Orange County, California, whatever county you're in, there might be little nuances. There might be little things that the people out in the woods near me don't have to deal with. So someone local to you, if you have friends and family that are business people that have accountants, talk to them. Pick up a phone, do a free consult with some of these people. This is how I found who I have. And I will talk later about the status of my accounting situation and things like that, probably if I remember to bring it up. Professional graders, PSA, CGC, BGS, SGC. There's a lot of alphabet soup out there. How do I see and use them? So finding competent professionals. Where I am in the hobby, 10 years down the line, I've been in coins for even longer than that, and I'm relatively familiar with the grading scales. I'm relatively familiar with authenticating cards, and I have a pretty good idea of what's what, how to grade a card between 1 and 10 for most company scales. I don't really use them in a way where I'm needing their authenticity. I don't really use them in a way where I'm needing their grading ability either. I'm pretty much using them to create an unbiased third-party opinion so that I can sell things into the market with a less frustrating experience. I don't want to have to say, hey, I think this is near mint, hey, I think this is mint, and then I sell it into the market and then the guy receives the raw card, the guy or gal receives the raw card, and they say, oh no, this is actually LP, near mint, whatever it may be. That's what third-party authentication started out as. That's what I think the core idea behind it was supposed to be. I think the market has like really just ranked everything up to the highest level. We've attributed obscene valuations to the highest level grades, in my opinion. I'm not comfortable with the valuations the market puts on third-party grading, so I just don't play in it, except to the extent that it helps level my business up to the next level, getting higher valuations, getting things like that. So money talks. Like, what purpose are, and I talk about these things because I'm in this arena of Pokemon, playing the game of collectible resale, playing the game of trying to grow my business morally, ethically, all these things. And you might be a collector. You might be trying to optimize for different things. We're in the same arena of Pokemon. We're playing different games, playing by different rules. So look at these companies. Look at what are you doing in this space, and what are the companies that you're interacting with doing for you? How are they serving you, if at all? I feel like I've run across many people where it's like you're getting so hung up. It almost feels like more negativity is being brought to you by this interaction that you have with these third-party graders. You're spending more money on cards. You might not agree with the valuations. You might not agree with the grades. And it's like, are you actually getting anything out of this? Or are you just costing yourself more money and adding more frustration? In real life, I am thankful to have a father, have family members who are in a lot of the trades, mechanics, electricians, plumbers. Shout out Pokey Plumber out there. I have been fortunate in my life to, one, be fairly handy with things and not have to go to professionals, not have to go and go to a mechanic. I can do a lot of the things myself. I can consult my dad. I can consult people that I know and trust that aren't going to rip me off. But if your mechanic has ever tried to sell you blinker fluid or something of the sorts, it's an unfortunate thing. And I'm not just trying to like talk down on the trades. There are bad people in every trade, in every profession. There are incompetent people in professions of every kind. And some people are solely there to try to extract money from you. And they're there to not have your best interests at heart. And finding one from the other is very, very tough. So yeah, I'm just putting these thoughts out there. I believe I'm building towards something. So hopefully we will get there together in the coming slides. But yeah, it's actually a difficult task. It's actually a difficult task to like, hey Dan, how do I find a trusty mechanic? How do I know they're not pulling one over on me? How do I know that when they charge me $1,000 bill for wheel bearings and struts and suspension and an oil change, and how do I know that I'm actually getting what I'm paying for? How do I know? It's actually a tough thing. Same thing applies, as I said, about accountants, tax attorneys. Consult with people, look at reviews. That's what you've got there. With PSA, CGC, BGS, same thing applies. You can look out there, lots of people chirping about any and all angles, any and all experiences. You have positive and negative ones aplenty with all grading card companies in the space. And in 2025, one thing I wanted to mention that you need to be careful about. We literally have supercomputers in our pockets. We have these things in our pockets, access to like all the world's information, ChatGPT, AI, all these deep learning models, whatever they call them, LLMs. I don't know what the first L stands for, something learning models. But anyways, there are people in 2025 that just believe demonstrably false things. I'm not going to get into politics. I'm not going to get into anything of that nature. But I think people will understand what I'm saying when I say this. Like, on every side of every fact, I'm not talking like, I'm not talking highly contentious things in society that are debated, some like political topics that are highly debated, that are more subjective. I'm talking like strictly fact. I'm talking like, is the Earth a spheroid or is it flat? Can you fall off the edge of the planet? There are people with bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, doctorates. There are college educated people on both sides of seemingly every fact. I think that's just law of large numbers. You have 8 billion people on the planet, hundreds of millions of people college educated. You can literally find people, professionals, that will tell you the world is flat. So keep all that in mind as we continue on. Keep all that in mind as you interact with professionals in your daily life. 50% of people, the median, right? The median person is not extremely bright, in my opinion. And I would go the same level for like even professionals. The median professional is like, I don't know if I want to be worked on in surgery by like the median doctor. And someone's the worst doctor out there. Someone's in the 5th, 10th percentile. Someone's in the 20th percentile. So all these things have ranges, and ideally you want to deal with the highest levels of competency, not just, I mean, the median, I guess. If you could just get the median, guaranteed, and not like, yeah. Continuing on. Know your risks. Know your risks. This is in business. This is dealing with professionals. Know what the risk is if you are dealing with somebody, dealing with a business opportunity, dealing with a collecting opportunity. Know what the upside is. Know what the downside is. And one thing that I'm big on, I will link the video above. I made it a few years ago. Insure yourself against wipeout risk. I will detail it in the next slide. I believe is the one where we will talk about this latest, greatest controversy that's going on with CGC. As far as I understand, I believe they are insured. You are insured as the collector. Getting to the next point, there are two companies in our space that, like, we are fairly fortunate. There are two companies in our space, CGC and PSA, that provide actual financial guarantees of grade and authenticity. How that will all bear out, how that will actually work out in practice remains to be seen. I will talk about some history of issues in that front, but at least having that there. BGS, as far as I understand, doesn't have it. WADA, a lot of these other grading companies in other collectible spaces, I don't believe have it either. Maybe NGC and PCGS, the coin equivalents of PSA and CGC. But yeah, every investment, every time you go into some new venture, every time you go, I mean, if you're buying like a random card on eBay, the risk reward is not like massive. You've got eBay on your side, you've got buyer protection, you've got eBay authenticity guarantee, you've got the credit card company backing you. So it's like the risk is extremely low, if not zero, and the reward is getting what you want to get, filling that hole in your collection, potential future gains if the collectible were to increase in value. And then I guess the risk is the potential downside risk of potential losses, capital losses of the collectible going down. But when I added recently live streaming to my business, I will talk about this more in next week's video when I break down all my different segments of my business and all the different ways in which I made money in 2024. But like me trusting a streamer, me sending all my inventory out to a streamer, there's brand risk. So there's like dollars and cents risk. All my inventory could just be, I could be exit scam. They could just run away with it, right? House could burn down, something like that. There are ways to insure against those things. Some of them you don't insure, some of them you can't insure. There's brand risk. I think there's some kind of drama going on in the sports world right now where some streamer said something pretty crazy on camera, and I have people representing my brand now, multiple other people outside of me, outside of my house, outside of my persona, wearing the name, representing the name. So know the risks, know the upside, know the downside. And I just wanted to tease the next section. I wanted to tease the next slide. Here's a proposal for you. So you're a company, you're in the Pokemon space. Your upside is, I'm going to give you an opportunity to have about 20, say it's 30, say it's $50,000. 20,000 might be shooting low on it, but I'm not positive. 20,000 in gross revenue. This is not like $20,000 in profit in your pocket. 20,000 in gross revenue for $20 million worth of liability. And then there's some upside. When I say wash on publicity, if you're reading along on the slide, what that means is there is heavy upside potential for publicity if things go well, but it's equally heavy to the downside if things go poorly. So it's like if it works out and it's great, you have done something historic. You are known as the company in the space who's done this historic thing. But if it fails, not only are you open to $20 million worth of risk for your $20,000 of gross revenue that you get, you are exposed to that same negative publicity, to the maybe even to a worser extent than the upside would have been if everything went well. So what am I talking about here? The recent news in Pokemon. CGC did a big whoopsie. They did a big boo-boo. They certified as 1996 prototype cards. I'm not going to rehash out this whole thing. Go watch my live stream from last week that I will link above. Go to E4. Shout out PFM, Pokemon Flying Master, not Pokemon Flying Monster. I've heard a lot of people call him Pokemon Flying Monster in some videos over the past week. But yeah, Scott, PFM, he did a great Detective Pikachu work. He dove in. He found the dot matrices. I won't rehash the whole thing. But basically, cards that were certified as being 1996 prototypes, Alpha, Beta, Delta, Omega, Charlie, Foxtrot, all these different things. They were printed just last year and sold last year, authenticated, authentic. authenticated to be authentic by CGC. So a big boo-boo. And one thing I say on this slide, everyone makes mistakes. Mistakes of this magnitude are not necessarily inevitable. I'm not fully excusing CGC, saying like, oh, everyone makes mistakes, so no biggie. This is a biggie. They, I believe the numbers 1,500 to 2,000 somewhere, maybe 1,600-ish. So if they were grading those cards for 20 bucks a pop, they're grading them for 50 bucks a pop. It's like the amount of money that they had on the upside, going back to the last slide that I talked about, the upside was what? 20, 50, even if it was 100 grand worth of revenue. The downside, the fallout now, all the negative PR, the finances, which hopefully they're insured against. I've heard they're insured against. How an insurance like that works for a company when they are authenticating, it's not like they, yeah, I don't know exactly how that insurance works. Hopefully it's something that's actually there. Hopefully it's something that will allow CGC to pay out everyone in full, because everyone makes mistakes. It's all about how we respond to them. And I am not immune to making mistakes either. I've shipped the wrong card to people, and depending on the instance, hey, keep the card, I'm gonna fully refund you. Hey, that's a very expensive card I just shipped you. Are we fine just calling it even, or do you want to return it and I'll send you the right one and I'll send you some bonus items for your trouble? Depending on how I made a boo-boo, I've, at my cost, my time, my money, I've rectified the situation every time I've been given the opportunity to. So that's all people can do. I think it's all that you can reasonably ask. But as a consumer, as a potential consumer of CGC's company, of CGC service, you have a right to say that's too much. But like, maybe you buy from me, maybe you buy some unique one-of-one item, some unique, and I ship it really poorly and it gets damaged. And it's not like, hey, it's not like it's a gray felt hat. I can just take it back, send you another one. It's like some unique one-of-one item, and then it gets smashed and trashed, and Dan, I will never forgive you. That's not replaceable. There's no way around it. Or I guess a reasonable example too would be like, hey, I sent you a childhood card and you sent it to the grading company and it got lost forever. And it's like that would be more on the the carrier than it would be me in that instance. But it's like, it would not be unreasonable, and a lot of people would, the person they're interfacing with, the person they're dealing with, like, I'm not going to forgive you ever. I'm not going to forgive CGC ever. That's perfectly fine and fair. There are people who have never used CGC before, and this reinforces their decision to never use them again. That's fair. That's fine. Me personally, though, the way I interact as a business, CGC still provides application to me. I think it's an unfortunate thing. People are forgetting in this time of all this emotion. Only a week since the news went out, less than that as I record. CGC is a victim too. CGC is a victim of, theoretically, allegedly, I'm not entirely sure, but it sounds like they might be a victim of agents of, or the actual founder themselves. One like founding member of Pokemon itself, allegedly, potentially, or maybe it's not him, maybe it's his agents, I'm not entirely sure. Somewhere, someone did something bad, really bad, and they are fraudulently forwarding information to CGC. That's how we got here. How did we get here? Somebody did something really bad, presumably, allegedly, and they and or their agents facilitated these things becoming authenticated on faulty words. Yeah, who was actually responsible? Hopefully the FBI will get to that. We'll talk about the FBI more in a later slide. But to me, as it stands on February 1st, I record this, CGC is not entirely written off by me. If they do this the wrong way, if they take everyone's cards back in and they crack them all out and they destroy them and say, hey guys, we determined the intrinsic value of the paper and the ink on them was 5 cents, and we're going to send you back a nickel all in the mail per card. That would be like, okay, I'm probably going to cease business with CGC. They're probably going to be bankrupt within a few months. And it's all a spectrum. It's all scale. The best case scenario is they pay everyone in full. Maybe they send some extra money for pain and suffering. I don't think we're going to get that dream scenario. I don't think we're going to get the scenario that I said either, though. I don't think we're going to get the scenario where they try to offer functionally $0 for every card. So it's going to be somewhere in between. Will it be enough? Will it be not enough? How will the market respond? We'll see when we get there. I personally was not affected. I did not buy any. But let me continue on, and let me show you other mistakes that have been made. Let me because some people are just using this to dance on the grave of CGC as if they're already dead, as if it's a certainty that they will die. I've heard so many people so firmly, confidently say that CGC is done. I don't entirely agree. I mean, this is big. This is bad. This could kill them. 10% chance or less, I would attribute to it. Once it happens or doesn't happen, as always, it'll be obvious. Hindsight, it'll be, oh, it's obvious it wouldn't have killed them. It's obvious it would have killed them. Whichever one happens was obvious. But I would say less than a 10% chance, complete made up number. Feels like a slightly educated guess. Am I professional enough to provide that guess? We'll find out. But big PSA fan, boys and girls, big CGC haters. PSA has made mistakes. I'm not gonna spend 25 minutes dissecting this. It's been done and over with. But this is not the only one. There's been more. Shout out to Professor Oak Cali, Mike on Instagram. Good guy. Bad situation. This was a couple years ago, but it's not super high res. You should be able to see very clearly. On my screen, it looks very clear. I don't know what resolution you're watching at. Massive print lines, massive scratches. This is a PSA 10 Nidoking Shadowless Hollow card. A lot of whitening on the corners. This is just one corner blown up. I don't know how well you see it there. This card is a PSA 8. PSA 8 at best, but it's actually in a 10 case. Mike bought this card from an auction house. I forget which one. It might even be mentioned in here. But he's like, I collect PSA 10s. I want a PSA 10. This is not one. PSA has a financial guarantee of grade and authenticity. Let me send it back. And at the time, I believe this card was worth between $1,000 and $1,500. So the way, to the letter of the policy, the way that it theoretically works is that if a card is overgraded, PSA will regrade it. They will reimburse you the difference between what it was graded and what it should be graded. So they would regrade this as a 7 or an 8. I believe Mike somewhere in here says he thought it should be like a PSA 6 or a 7. But I thought an 8 could have been fair, 7, whatever it may be. $1,000. It would have been about $1,000 differential. PSA would have theoretically, if they followed the letter of their authenticity, they would have got a check for $1,000, returned a PSA 7 Shadowless Nidoking, and they didn't. They chose to have multiple people look at this card. Like in this day and age, I'm in so many Discords, I'm in so many Instagram following. I see people like, oh, if there's a white dot, I don't send it. If there's a single white dot, not a 10, so I don't send it. So if anyone out there, let me know in the comments below. If anyone out there, PSA fanboy, fangirl, if you can stand by this card being a PSA 10, if you can stand by PSA, and some people will say, it's $1,000, this is 20 million bucks, it's different. This is quite similar. They claim to have a policy, which clearly this card, no one, except for apparently multiple head graders at PSA, the vice president of PSA, no one can stand by this card and call it a PSA 10. However, PSA did. So in lieu of doing the right thing and cutting a check for $1,000, a measly $1,000, what is that to a billionaire company that owns it? The big thing, though, in my opinion, the way that I analyze this situation, I've seen PSA 10 base first Charizards that are PSA 8s. That's $200,000 now. I've seen PSA 10 Master Scrolls that are PSA 6s. That's 10, 20, 30 grand. I don't even know what that would be today. There are multi tens of millions of dollars. So to be fair, we're looking at one card. PSA probably is on the hook. If they were to the letter of the law, follow their guarantee, they would probably be on the hook for tens of millions of dollars. So it's not that surprising to me that they deny this claim. I've always been one to say, like, I think they're only going to ever do something if they have to. To be fair to PSA, I have reviewed a PSA 10 card to a PSA 6 and been paid over $1,000 for it because there was a crease on the card in the foil. Actually, that one was a Gold Star Charizard. It was over $1,000 from a PSA 9 to a PSA 6 with a crease in the foil. They had no way. Like, in my opinion, in most people's opinion, they would have no way. Hollow scratches, print lines, white dots all over the place, white edge wear on the backs. But the thing that I've always said is 3+ grades. If they're 3+ grades off, they will have to stand by it. If it's 2, if it's 1, never a chance. Never a chance. So in my opinion, like, I don't really like that. I don't value their opinion so highly to blindly buy cards for my collection. That's just the way that I interact with it. But props to PSA. Another thing they've done. So I'm showing a bad thing they've done. I'm digging up skeletons of the past to kind of show you, like, not just CGC, not just BGS. It's all of them a little bit. It's all of them. None of them are perfect. None of them will ever be perfect, and it's unreasonable. Like being reasonable about it. It is unreasonable to expect any of them. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions of collectibles certified. There will be issues, but when you have issues, how do you resolve them? This one was not resolved. This one is bad. This one is like a check mark in the bad column. Maybe CGC goes significantly worse than that with how they handle the prototypes. Remains to be seen. But to PSA's credit, they have crimped my cards inside of the cases in encapsulation, and they've emailed me and they said, "Hey Dan, we're sorry, we didn't mean to. Here's a PSA card." So when they sonically weld these into the cases, there are grooves. If the card's not in the groove and the card's up on the edge, you will mutilate the card. I've had cards that were going to be PSA 10s turned into PSA 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s. And then PSA has sent me an email. Like they could have theoretically returned me a card that was a 3, said the damage was there all along, and they've actually reached out to me. They have said, "Hey Dan, your card would have been $300. Now it's $30. We're giving you a credit. We're deducting $270 off your order." So, like, I'm giving you both sides. PSA has done real naughty things, bad things, indefensible things like this. This Shadowless Nidoking is indefensible, but they've done good things too. They've done good things where no one really could have ever caught him. It would have been a he said, she said, me versus a multi-billion-dollar company. And I've seen other people having that instance happen too. But trust but verify. So when it comes to grading, when it comes to professionals, however you interact, I might be trying to be so broad. Maybe I'm bouncing all over the place. I felt like this video had a theme. I'm not sure if it's landing, but let me know in the comments below if this video is enjoyable, entertaining, educational, makes any sense to you. But the way that I see it, trust but verify. Unfortunately, you can't always take them for their word. You can't always take them for their word. You have to buy not only the card. Sorry, you have to buy not only the grade. If you're a PSA 10 collector, if you're a PSA 9 collector, if you're a CGC Pristine collector, you have to buy the card and the grade. You can't just buy the grade. I've seen black labels that are off center that should not have a BGS 9 centering grade. I have seen one thing PK and I were saying on the recent Fanatics Live box break. I've seen better 9s and worse 10s. The amount of overlap between all these grades, the amount of overlap between the amount of consistently inconsistent, 95 to 99% plus of the time, I think they're pretty spot on. They're within half-ish a grade to one grade of what it should be. But the implications of being wrong, even if it's 0.1% of the time to 1% of the time, that's tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of collectibles circulating around there that are just quite misgraded. So you've got to buy the card. You've got to buy the card. You can't just buy the grade, or you can just blindly buy the grades and then know that you're going to get some decent amount of variance. If and when a card is really ugly, like that Shadowless Nidoking, those things are probably more likely than the properly graded ones to show up, right? The amount of Master Scrolls I've seen out there, and it's not just one of them because the cert numbers are different, but like if you're on E4, if you've been around for a while, you might even know the specific ones that I'm talking about. If Master Scrolls have ever been on your wants list. Me personally, I've owned a couple. I've owned a PSA 10, a PSA 9, and some of them out there are really ugly. Some of them out there are really misgraded. That's just the way that it is, though. But one thing I wanted to add here, too, going back to PSA slide, every major company involved in this hobby that we all know and love, the selling platforms, the grading card companies, all of them have had FBI investigations. I think this is going to be CGC's first. So welcome to the club, CGC. You are now going to likely be under FBI investigation. They had not been yet, only because they were so new. I think just it's inherent. It's going to happen. The way that people are, the way that these things exponentiate the values of the cards, bad people will do bad things interacting with in these spaces. So yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask, a question I wanted to pose, and this is not with respect to CGC directly, PSA directly. This might be with respect to your accountant, your mechanic. It's like, what are they actually a professional at? Are they a professional at the task that you are employing them to do? Or are they just a professional at extracting money? And what are their goals and incentives? And do they align with yours? That's one thing that I've mentioned a million times, and I'll never stop mentioning it. Know what someone's motivations are and know if they align with yours. Do people really think that, like, I've seen the crazy amount of tinfoil conspiracies that I've seen. Do people really think CGC was out trying to just get 20, 50, 100 grand worth of grading fees and like push something through that they knew had a solid shot at not being real? I don't think that's the case. Hanlon's razor, do not attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by negligence, incompetence, whatever you want to call it. I don't remember the exact quote word for word, but I always paraphrase that one. That one's a good one though. Basically, if there's a choice between someone having been evil or dumb, they were more likely dumb than evil. Sometimes though, they are evil, but I think that one stands up a lot of times. And yeah, when you're dealing with your account, like talking about my accountant, I think my accountants are really good at accounting. I think they're really good at what they fundamentally do. And I think at PSA, at CGC, I think there are a lot of individual good people at what they do. There are probably some of the best people in the world at grading cards and authenticating things. But CGC is not all of its individual people. CGC is the output on any given day. Like they are, and something like these, to be fair, they probably went to like all the highest rungs. They probably went through a lot harsher scrutiny than something like a gray felt hat Pikachu or a Moonbreon, because they see him all the time. But yeah, it's depending on the day and depending on the one that you interact with, these are companies of thousands of people, hundreds of people. And I saw another anecdotal funny thing where someone called up CGC and they talked to a customer service rep, and not anything against customer service reps or anything, but like what one person says on the phone, because they're representing the professional entity that is CGC, that doesn't mean it's gospel. That doesn't mean it's fact. It's so wild sometimes how people just think like this is a professional. What they say is absolute. What they say is true. They cannot misspeak whatsoever. And that is why it takes so long to get responses. That is why it took so long for CGC to craft a reply to this whole thing. You don't want just random Billy from HR, Billy from the PR team, the public relations team. You don't want one random person to just hop onto their phone and put a, oh, I see E4's blowing up. Hey, we're getting added on Instagram. We're getting, and then just one random individual just pushes out something, and then everyone takes it as fact. People get rabble, extra rabble, grab an extra pitchfork. It's like, I'm ranting all over the place on this one. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. People just get really weird about a lot of things, and there's been a lot of that going on over this past week. I understand the emotions. I understand if you're caught up in potentially losing a lot of money. But a lot of times too, it's just people feeding into the drama, feeding into the emotion that aren't even affected. Just they like the drama, grabbing their popcorn, kicking back, throwing some extra coals to stoke the flames. But anyways, continuing on through the last bullet point on this slide. Jack of all trades, master of none, though oftentimes better than a master of one. A lot of times that last part of the line is dropped off. But one thing that I like to see myself as, and one thing that I like to pivot, like I like to set up my business in this way to alleviate potential risk and to kind of just spread my sales across multiple platforms, to spread my revenue streams across multiple platforms, across multiple like types of business activity, consulting with the Patreon, all that kind of stuff, a little bit of content creation, YouTube, a few $100 a month, not like it's a lot, buying and selling, having my capital at risk, grading, regrading, selling on live streams, selling on doing the consignments, a little bit of everything. I'm probably not the best individually at any one of those things, but having all of those, if one thing for whatever reason falls apart, dies, goes away, if one platform goes away, if eBay goes away, I've got a lot of things going on with Fanatics. If Fanatics goes away, I've got a lot of things going on with eBay. If CGC goes bankrupt, I've got a lot of PSA and BGS and CGC inventory. So it's like I just have a lot of things spread all around, and maybe if one of them goes to the moon, well, I won't have gone to the moon fully with them, right? Because I will have been spread across multiple things. But that's just that's the way that I like to do things. And me personally, I see myself that way too. I can do the brakes on my car. I can do the oil changes on my car. Can I drop the transmission? Can I drop the engine? Can I put in a new head gasket? Can I do like major crazy things to it? No. But can I fix my washing machine when the belt goes? Can I throw in a new belt? Can I throw in a new heating element into my dryer? I can do all those things. And I think it saves me a lot of money. And I think it saves me a lot of headache too. The fact that I can like topically from a 30,000-foot level kind of understand how a car works mostly. And I can go, and I know if I go to the dealer, I'm actually going to the dealer this week, my car stopped working. If they put a line item on the bill that says $50, hey, we topped up your blinker fluid, and we aligned your what's that? I was trying to think of some funny thing from a movie, but now I can't even think of the thing I was trying to think of. Anyways, I will have some basic understanding of what's going on, and I have armed myself with some basic level of understanding that just makes it that much more likely that I'm not going to have a fast one pulled on me. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe that doesn't make sense, but I think it does. And professionally, in my business, in my personal life, I act in that way, act in that fashion. And that's it. I feel like I had some other points that I wanted to bring up, but we are also 37 minutes in. So I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. Next week's video, I will be talking about all the different revenue streams I have. I've made the video before, and I'll probably like call back to that one and just show what I had at the time. The like entirely new platforms that some of them might not have existed then. The Fanatics Live maybe it existed, but no one Pokemon was on it yet. But how drastically my business has changed in the past few years is wild. And yeah, let me know what you thought about the video. Let me know what you think. Will you ever forgive CGC? Will you ever let them back in? Do you think they are professionals, or do you think they're just professional con artists extracting money from the hobby, providing no actual service? Where I'm at with grading as a whole, I use them as a tool to multiply my gains on business activities that I'm doing. But like, raw cards are the way that I collect. My childhood binder is here in front of me, and I have some cards that I've graded, that I got some cards that were given to me as gifts that I graded. But as far as like, if there are cards that I'm taking to my grave, I'm not going to pay for the third-party professional opinion, because it serves me nothing. It does nothing for me. I feel I can authenticate and I can grade better than the average output of CGC, PSA, BGS, especially if I spend some extra time on it, and especially if I like really care deeply about that thing. Because even if you are grading something of like an extremely high level, they don't care about it as much as you do, and they will not be interacting with the card to the level, to the amount of time that you will be if you maintain that over years. And actually, yeah, so a lot there, but maybe also not a lot there. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I appreciate you all watching. I will catch you all later.